What's good, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of the Phasmophobia Beginners Guide. Get ready to put on your hard hats and get your toolboxes out, because today we're going over every tool in Phasmophobia. As always, timestamps for each tool are in the description below. With all that out of the way, roll the intro. Starting off for the day, we have the Thermometer. Now, this is probably going to be the best item that you're going to have to really track down where the ghost is at that moment, or at least has been recently. The temperature will decrease anytime the ghost is either passed by or is in your exact vicinity. The current room temperature in the game on every map varies from 14 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius. The temperature below 13 degrees generally means that the ghost has just passed by, and it's not in that room possibly. But if it's from 5 degrees Celsius to 10 degrees Celsius, that means that you're in the vicinity of a ghost, and as you go from 3 degrees Celsius all the way possibly down to even negative 10 degrees Celsius, you're probably right next to a ghost. So that's the Thermometer. Use it. Up next is probably just as equally as important as the Thermometer, and that is the EMF Reader. You will want to use this every single time you're starting out a match. I use it, I'm the person who runs with it, and it helps you so much with tracking down where the ghost is and really trying to get in and get out before you die, because dying sucks. So the EMF, obviously you'll have your checklist for each ghost, and that will have to go up to an EMF level 5, but as long as you're getting readings, it's going to help you so much to really find what room the ghost is in, hunker down, put all your stuff in there, and then figure out what you're dealing with and get out. That's the EMF Reader. On to the next one. Next up, this is just the regular flashlight. I didn't know this at the beginning of starting the game, even into probably my first couple hours, but we're also tying this in with the strong flashlight. Once you get the strong flashlight, I can assure you, you will never ever want to use the ordinary flashlight again, because the regular flashlight sucks, and the strong flashlight does not suck. So I don't really have to explain these much because they're flashlights. So let's move on. Next up, surprise, we're still talking about flashlights. But this one is something that you will not be using every single time, but when you do use it, hey, you got another piece of evidence. Of course, I'm talking about the UV flashlight or the ultraviolet flashlight. Now these ones, obviously they will show fingerprints or footprints. If you shine it down on sand, you will see that. Anytime you see lights turn off or something like that, try and find that light switch to that certain light and shine the UV flashlight on it. And if you see any fingerprints, that's great. You have another piece of evidence. If not, then I would probably start using other tools, because there's a good chance that you're not going to be dealing with a ghost with fingerprints. So that is the UV flashlight. Now we're talking about the Ghost Book, or Book of Ghosts, or the Ghost Diary, whatever you want to call it. These things, if you just throw it down wherever the ghost is, then you might get some writing. It's not a sure thing. This is only for certain ghost types. But if you get any writing, there's a piece of evidence, and you get a nice piece of art from a ghost. Something that you can put in a mural if you'd like. So, that's the Ghost Book. Next up, we're talking about the video camera. Now, these ones are obviously very useful to have surveillance in a room where you think a ghost is, mainly to look for ghost orbs. That's really the best thing that you're going to be using these for. To turn these on, you just click. So if it's red, it's off. If it's green, it's on. Which for me, that kind of threw me for a loop, because it's the other way around if you're using an actual video camera. But that is how it works in this video game. So green is on, red is off. Remember that, because I've made that mistake way too many times. So that is a video camera. You can also attach it to a tripod, which is good for mainly large scale maps where there aren't many ledges that you can just put on, Asylum being one of those. So that is a video camera, very useful. Now we're going all retro and talking about film cameras. These ones are awesome for making you some money because you can snap pictures of dirty sinks, ghost writing on the ghost diary, if you want to call it that, or pictures of the ghosts, and then salt, footprints, fingerprints, pretty much any evidence that you have of the ghost. You'll make some extra money if you snap a picture of it. Now, each one only has a limit of 5 stills, so it's best to bring like 3 or 4 of these film cameras with you just to make sure you have enough so you can make that nice old dough. So that's the film camera, or the photo camera. Next up, we're talking about the spirit box. Now this one is going to be used to try and communicate with the ghosts, but only certain ghost types will even communicate with you, so these ones are kind of a hit and miss. I wouldn't rely solely on them to find the ghost at all. Just try to get your piece of evidence. If you do, there you go. You can ask it some questions, but most of the time it's talking like Kevin Malone, and few word do not make good. So, yeah. Do you have a second so I can talk to you about our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Here's a crucifix. Chuck these at some of the ghosts, one of them being the Banshee, who if you throw a crucifix down, he'll run away, because as I've described in the last video, he's the atheist. So, crucifixes are usually helpful, especially if you're being hunted. Just drop one of those dudes on the ground and you're usually safe. Yeah, that's a crucifix. I mean, there isn't much to say about it. If you've seen a horror movie, they pretty much do that. Ghosts hate crosses, I guess. Next up, we're talking about 3 things. We have the lighter, which will light these 2 next things, and it's a lighter. So, a lighter is a lighter. I don't feel like I need to explain that too much. Now we're talking about smudge sticks. These ones are especially useful for some certain ghosts. As you can see on the screen right now, those are the ghosts that you can use to lure it away, or just overall it will deter all of the ghosts from killing you instantly. So if you're starting to get hunted, then put smudge sticks down and, hey, be safe. Put Jesus Christ on the ground. There you go. And the third part we're talking about in this little section is candles. Candles are extremely useful in maps that don't have many lights at all. And as you know, lights help raise your sanity level, and the more you're in the dark, lowers your sanity level. So carrying a few candles with you, if you can, helps, so you aren't going to be hunted and killed like that. So that is lighters, smudge sticks, and candles. Next up, we're talking about salt. This isn't something that is extremely necessary for you, but it can help you, one, find where the ghost is, and kind of possibly even find what type of ghost you're dealing with, whether the ghost backs away. If it's a wraith, they get hurt by salt. Now, these things, you will be able to see footprints, but it will only be on the salt for a few seconds. So the salt isn't the most useful thing unless you are right there and you're looking for footprints. It will leave marks, obviously, and those will stay. But if you're dealing with a wraith, they don't have feet, so they just fly. And every bottle of salt can only do 3 lumps. So I would recommend bringing about 4 or so cans of salt with you on each journey. Next up, we got motion sensors. Now these are going to be installed on the wall, and when there is no activity and no motion passing it, they're going to stay red. And if there is any motion, it's going to flip to green. It will also be triggered by players, so kind of if you're watching the map in the truck, kind of just keep in contact with your teammates. You will usually be able to see a little dot of them, but sometimes it won't register, at least for me. But it will also give you a little tone sound on the truck map. So motion sensors can be useful to kind of see where the ghost is going, because sometimes they will go in and out of rooms. So So I would recommend using the motion sensors as much as you can because they are very helpful. Next up in our sensors, we are talking about the sound sensor. Now these ones, just like the motion sensor, can be placed on the wall and it will detect any sounds in a large range. These things are very helpful. We use them especially on high school where that's a big map. You use them kind of just to get all of the hallways. It's one of the best tools that you will be able to use. The good thing about these is they're different from the motion sensors where they will not detect any human sound. So it's not like your teammates are going to be tripping it. If it's getting tripped, that's by a ghost. They are going to be used in the truck where you can watch them. If you're in the area where they are, you're not going to really have any notification that they're going off. So you can always have someone in the truck telling you whenever these sensors are going off. So as a sound sensor, they're pretty good. They aren't the most useful, but they're pretty good on large maps. And last up for our sensors is the infrared sensor. This is similar to the motion sensor. It can also detect people and it can be placed on the wall. It is usually dark and it will glow anytime something passes by it. But again, it can be tripped by people. Personally, I've tried to use the infrared sensor, but I haven't really had a whole lot of success with it, really, for tracking down exactly where the ghost is. They haven't really had too much time to shine yet, if I'm going to say it that way. So the infrared sensor is good to have, but you're really not going to have too much of an impact on your game if you use them. So that's the infrared sensor. Now we're talking about the Sanity pills. For a while, when we were playing on amateur, you won't really notice it until you're playing pretty much professional. Professional is going to be the best time that you're going to be using these pills, mainly because once your sanity gets low enough, that is when the ghost will be much more aggressive and have a much higher chance of killing you. So it's best to, every time you're kind of going in and out of the building, once you're below about 50% of your sanity, pop those pills. It will help you and probably keep you alive, especially when you're on those higher difficulties. So those are the sanity pills. They are useful in higher difficulties. Now we're talking about the glow stick. These things are similar to the UV flashlight where they can find footprints and fingerprints, but they are also extremely useful as just having a general mark. Sometimes if you don't have a flashlight for whatever reason, chucking one of these at either a switch or the breaker switch, if the power goes out, they're very useful in those situations, but personally, I have not used them too much and be happy with them. But that is the glow stick. Now we're talking about the head-mounted camera. These ones don't really have too much of a use of finding where the ghost is, but it's kind of just to be able to amuse the person who's stuck in the truck talking to you over the radio. And sometimes I've had this happen. I've been watching the monitor and the person's been killed, and we got to see the ghost charge right at them, and then they died. So I would say the head-mounted camera is best used just for entertainment purposes, not too much for finding the ghost. But hey, if you like GoPros, you got one in the game. There you go. If you're like me and you skipped through the tutorial, this is something that you find out a few matches into the game with friends, and that is the journal and the radio. These ones, I'm playing in VR about 99% of the time whenever I'm playing this game, obviously. The journal is going to be on your right shoulder if you just grip it and then do that. It has all the info on each ghost, and then at the very back it has your evidence page where you have to mark where each or what piece of evidence that you have is for. And then the radio is going to be on your left side or your left shoulder. These ones are great because we didn't know this for a good day into playing, and we were just stuck yelling at each other in the game, and then we found the radio, and it has made our lives so much easier. Recommended use the radio rather than yell. The ghosts don't really kill you as fast. Last but not least, we got a tricky one. and that is the Parabolic Mic. I've been trying to figure out exactly how to use this for the past week or so, and I think I'm getting there, but I also really don't know. These things are really tricky because they don't work on every single map. They will really only work right now on School and Asylum. I know that they're going to be releasing a couple more maps. I don't know the size of them, but as of right now, 2 maps you're really going to be using it with. It is School and Asylum. Now, what the Parabolic Mic does is detects audio probably that you cannot hear, and it will register on the little screen that you have kind of how big of a sound it was and how close it was to you with that number. Personally, I, again, haven't used it enough to really understand all of its capabilities and see how I can really use it. But it's a tool, and that is the Parabolic Mic. Now, this last little section is just going over kind of what we've seen out of the Phasmophobia roadmap article that at least I have seen along with a few of my other friends who are as well addicted to this game, and that is that we will be getting later. I don't know any pricing or anything like that for these items, but we just know that they will be coming into the game at some point, and that is the night vision goggles. That'll be an expensive item, of course. An SLS camera, which is something that just kind of helps detect, one, what the ghost looks like roughly, and obviously where it is. And then last but not least, we have a spotlight for the tripod, and same with the SLS camera, that goes on the tripod as well. So those are just things that are placed in the roadmap that I figured I would add just so you all know that they will be coming. And that is it for part 2 in the Phasmophobia Beginner's Guide. The upcoming guides will talk about each map and how not to die in them, various items that you will only find in maps and that you cannot buy and how to use them, and then strategies and tips on staying alive during your hunts. If you like this guide and want to see more guides and also just future gameplay in VR, so consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell. If you liked this video and you like this guide, of course, like the video, it truly helps. And I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, always at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I also stream on my Twitch at the same time on the same days. We also do have a Discord now where I can talk to all you peeps and play some games with you. Alrighty everyone, that's gonna do it for me today. Have a great one. Bye.
Yeah. Oh, fuck! Jesus! Christ!